lot happening here in Nigeria. Welcome. It's a fine place for us to start the conversation on grassroots governance, grassroots democracy. And well, the good thing here is that it's only just Lagos State I think that is Nigeria's economic capital. Lagos State just had its own council elections. For those who are not in Nigeria, you might just want to call it the, province or the precinct or your county elections, so to say. But this is one election that a lot of people were hoping to see a change, and the conversation concerning that election is still very on. And as they say, countries in the world, the best countries are those whose people are carried along, respected, valued in their development. So Nigeria and Africa isn't an exception, or rather aren't an exception, but in recent times there have been a pretty huge number of complaints about the neglect suffered by grassroots politics and its effects on the development of the country. It is on this note I welcome you to the discourse here on Classic FM. I'm Sulaiman Alede, and today my guest is someone I'm so happy that he's been able to take time out to be with us, because he's someone who's been speaking about grassroots governance, grassroots democracy, being someone who's also been a player in that, part of our democracy. Quickly here before I introduce him, don't forget that you can also be a part of it. For those who are listening to us from outside Nigeria, don't forget to put the telephone area code, which is +234. It's our WhatsApp line. Send in your comments, your messages, and it's 0909 217 2973. 0909 217 2973. And join us as we welcome our guest. He's the former chairman of Kena local government area in Nasarawa State. Jibril Sabo Kena is the Wakilin Kena. He's going to tell us about that title. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Long time.
Well, it's good to see you. Yes, it's good to hear your voice. It's good to see you. When I say see, for those of our guests, he's actually live with me on Zoom. So after this conversation, you can get to watch Honorable Jibril Sabakena on the Classic FM YouTube channel. So this conversation is going to be a fine one. I wanted to ask quickly, tell me about your title. When we say Wakilin Kena, I like to, yes, I want to start with that. It's a learning process for everyone.
Well, I'm sure if you pronounce that village name Kena again, the community will sue you and former President Obasanjo.
Okay.
Because he used to call it Kena or China and so on and so forth. It's Kiana. Kiana is the word, is the name. And the Wakilin Kiana means a representative of the community of His Royal Highness.
Oh.
So, and that title was given to me after my failed attempt to run for House of Rep in about 1996 or thereabout. So he still said that I'm worthy to be his representative, and that's how the title came about.
Wow, that is awesome. That is very good. And I know you have been talking about local governments, and even as far back as the early 90s, and it was even in 2014. Back then, I remember you sat with some of us back then on television, where you were talking about insecurity, talking about local governments that are not being empowered to play active role in solving the insecurity problems. We're still here. This is 2021, and I remember that conversation. It was 2014, and your conversation with us then was, local government should have been able to actually nip in the bud some of these issues we're dealing with. But again, let's come back to our conversation today on grassroots local government. Time was just recently at the National Assembly, some people were saying we should just phase it out. We should do away with the fourth year, of government. I think it's a better place for us to start. Is it still a relevant, arm of, our democracy, grassroots, talking about the local governments?
Yeah, the Nigerian scenario could be traceable to about the beginning of this third phase of our democratic experiment. The constitution that brought us up to this level may have provided the opening for unpatriotic Nigerians, failed Nigerian leadership to explore, to demystify the essence of local government system in governance and delivery of democratic dividends. Because as you are very conscious of the roles the governors have played to virtually usurp the essence of the existing local government system because of the content of the constitution, where the section 7 says they should be able to give directions in the manner and mode in which local government could be run in their states, without making reference to the fact that it is guaranteed that the local government administration should be democratically, stabilized. They have continued to explore that in the letters of the content of that subsection, without allowing the spirit to flow. Because in the true sense of the spirit of those who made this constitution, I keep repeating, they must have conceived that anybody who would have the responsibility to be a governor in a state would have the interest of delivering his services using the lowest arm of government to so do. But the governors that came in 1999 and to date have continued to apply this subsection to the detriment of the ordinary people, to the detriment of, the residents of about 80% of this country who are supposed to have been living in the rural areas. And today, I think both at the rural areas and the cosmopolitan settings, we're going to pay for the price for the neglect and almost sacrilegious attitude and conduct of the governors at the second tier of government in this country. And so it is the misconduct of our governors at the second tier of government that has brought the local government system today to a standstill, to the point where it no longer exists in the context of performance of its duties, except to be used as a revenue generation conduit pipe for the governors to use at their wills and caprices, as they wish, with funds that accrue to the local government system. So it's not really that it doesn't exist. It exists only in paper, only in name, but for the purpose for which it was set up for the various reforms that have gone into it, it has completely been, rubbished by people who are supposed to have responsibility to encourage its growth, and if possible, might give rise to the disappearance of the states in the country. Because to me, the only organic structure we have today is the local government system. That's where people feel ownership and exist as owners of a country or of an institution that nobody, 80% of Nigerians don't live in Nigeria. They live in their local government. What I mean also by not living in Nigeria, living in local government, their mental psyche, their day-to-day activities is that they are from Kiana, they are going to farm in Kiana, they're going to the stream in Kiana, they're having meetings in Kiana, they're going to the markets in Kiana, they're farming in Kiana, they're having marriages in Kiana, they have a football match in Kiana. Nobody thinks about the entity called Nasarawa State per se in his daily conduct. Nobody thinks about the content of Nigeria as a federation. So if you encourage that institution to function, you will be taking care of the problems of this country by a large measure. And so somehow people who have been given opportunities to encourage this emergence have thought wrongly that they will remain governors forever and ever and become empires or emperors and have destroyed the system. And today they are living and sleeping in their houses in fear like every other person. Because the local government system does not exist, everybody's migrating to where everyone claims to be the emperor. That's my take on this.
I think you've just laid it bare, because I recall that we have a series here on Classic FM. Often we look at local government, grassroots governance, and we had Fuad Oki, an APC chieftain. He came on, and if you had the chance to listen to him, or those who listen to him would just say spot on. The same thing you're saying is what he's also highlighted, and he also said, look, keep in mind, if we continue like this, a day will come where even the democracy at the center may just not exist. As highlighted by you, everyone is from a local government. come from a local government. I live in a local government. But again, Jibril, it's sad that a lot of people can't feel the impact. And you just highlighted something, and somehow you were almost getting into that argument for financial autonomy, as if the local government over the years have been so starved of funds to the extent that people don't get to feel them. They just exist, as you say in your word, on paper, but in actual fact, they're not there. So tell us how it all started, because this whole talk of financial autonomy, the debate is still very much on.
Well, like you know, there is no entity that will survive without finance. And if expected to function, the lubricant is the funding. And during our tenure, we had our perfect funding. And I always say this, and I give credit, I've always given credit to Abdullahi Adamu. For the first 3 years that I was a local government chairman, he never intervened. He never one day said, go do this contract or come and do this in a collective manner, or there's a joint program between me and any other person. But since we left, they all degenerated to a level of creating development areas and all sorts of things, and using Section 7, subsection, I think, 2 or 8, to continue to generate certain laws that are inconsistent with the content of the Constitution, because there's any law that is made at the state level that is consistent with the spirit of Section 7 is null and void. But because the executives, they've continued to use that as avenues to be able to provide money from the local government area. The autonomy of the need for autonomy, financial autonomy of the local government system, is to encourage the development of the economy, the security, the administration, the governance of people by themselves. Hitherto, our people lived in their communities, and the traditional ruler had always been like the head of government. And he had offices that were able to were charged with responsibilities at different aspects. The community had a way of collecting money to get things done. Now we have a country that's a government in modernity, where funds are being derived from the center or for whatever means are shared to these areas. If you don't allow, if you give any reasons why you deprive these settings of this fund, they will not function. To the extent today that salaries are paid from ministries of local government areas. From Ministry of Local Government in the state level. Everything that is done at local government area, for local government area, are done at state headquarters. Staff are employed, they don't go to work because there's nothing for them to do. And I sounded this before I left office. When the labor union were having problems, I said, well, I'm enforcing the thing that you'll be looking forward to immediately I leave office. You will be local government employees, but you will not have anything to do, because the work you're doing can be done by 3 people in the Ministry of Local Government, and that's what's in practice today across the country. So the autonomy of local government is so important, to the extent that if General Buhari has any legacy he wants to leave for this country, I can feel his pulse. I can feel his passion to give the local government system the autonomy it deserves, to derive its funding and block it from the intervention from the state government. The only way to go about that is to amend the Constitution as it is today, whichever way he must do this, if he wants to leave a legacy for this country and lay foundation for the growth of democracy. He has the capacity now. He has the governors at his beck and call, because they all have problems that he is the only one who is solving for them, and he can blackmail them, if I must use that word, to give a contribution back, no matter how minimal it is. This is his final term. He can force, let me use all these inappropriate words. He can force even the state governors to force the House of Assembly to endorse this amendment to give full autonomy to local government system in this country, to give the elections, to upgrade the elections to be conducted by a national council. Because you see, the peculiarity we have needs peculiar solutions. Every country has some peculiarities. Our local government system didn't evolve. They were created overnight. Our states didn't evolve. They were created overnight. So we must attack the problems that emerge by the peculiarities that it deserves. If we don't do that and keep giving references to America, to China, and all sorts of things, we are looking like people who don't know what they're doing. We have a peculiar problem, and we need to solve it with the doctrine of necessity that it deserves. And the only way to do that now is give every community the peace of mind that he has a right to exist without being interfered to in the minimal. The middleman we have today to operate is the local government system. This is the unit that you could even account, that can even stand as the federating unit today in this country. If you define the local government system as the true federating unit in this country, these all issues of restructuring and will disappear, because you have 774 communities that if you give them sufficient independence to do their affairs, and with a minimum fund to take care of the salaries of their staff, cost, wallahi, most of the problems we have in this country, including security, will disappear overnight, because people will have been engaged fully on how to outmaneuver one another, to become local government chairmen, to be councillors, to be, in the good books of the chief, and everybody else will have something to do that will require him 24 hours in a day, enough to secure every community in this country. This idea of re-regionalizing or restructuring, creating more states, has this solved the problems? Has this solved problems in the various communities? It has not, because the problem lies in the fact that we don't have a foundation. We are building skyscrapers on a foundation that does not exist.
It's really worrying. It's disturbing, honestly, listening to you, and the passion, by which you have actually highlighted these things in some really strong terms. So, even some using unlikely words,
Yes.
and physical. It shows the importance and how quickly Nigeria must do this and fix this quickly. Because if you look at the joint accounts run by state and local governments, it doesn't seem that that has actually done much in terms of development for the people. And we're not done yet with that. We'll also take questions, but during our conversation, you said something about your first 2 years in office, and I said, wait a minute, apart from Lagos, a lot of states in Nigeria run the 2-year, tenure for local government. I think personally that isn't enough, and I have also had this conversation with a lot of other council, administrators, especially those who were once in office. Those who were once in office, they are always open to say it the way it is. And I asked a few of them on the show, and they said, well, 2 years isn't enough really for us to do this. I can imagine you having a Governor Abdullah at that point in time who wasn't interfering in what you were doing. If you had more time, perhaps you would have been able to actually do more than enough for Kiana and the people, and people would have been able to say, oh, see what is happening here, let's borrow a leaf. Do you think it's necessary for us to also, now that you call in for the constitutional review, or as it relates to local government, to also tweak the tenure of council chairmen or administrators?
The consequential decrees that brought every sphere of government in this country today is the same. We came in with the consequential.
Well, I think there seems to be a glitch there.
That has more right to exist than anybody else. If you remember, all of us, everybody in government today came. The parties that were even registered were registered because of the popularity of being elected in councils. Then there was excitement that this is our government. The local people went out in their numbers and voted different parties of their persuasions and brought the parties to be registered. And the exercise then showed that, we were maybe getting ready for the first time. The idea of laying foundation for the anomaly in the constitution is the only way out for this anomaly to be dealt with. And I don't have any other approach than to say that the country just needs the government. The government has enough in its own capacity to now lay a local government turnaround strategy. It's no longer about discussion. We have had enough discussions. The government has to maybe initiate a deliberate program. All these sporadic regulations that through finance this and that will not force the governors to do what is expected of them until they leave office. It is only when they leave office they know the defects of the crimes they have done against their community, because they will begin to suffer what they have not been able to do properly earlier on. So we have a problem, and I think the country needs now to lay a formal strategy to turn around the local government system, to form a foundation for us to properly engage our people, dissuade them from criminalities, dissuade them and encourage local economy, local social activities, and live lives as it were before this virus that has, taken over the mindset of our leaders at the second tier of government.
Before we open the phone lines quickly here, I also know that traditional rulers, they play a very important role in grassroots administration. You work directly with these royal fathers. With the present state of administration in councils, not talking about grassroots, is it safe to say some of their input, have been watered down or discarded?
Well, if there is anybody that also needs to be, that's where also we must. This is what I think Nigeria can give to the world. Every local government, if you remember, when everybody was putting on the memorandum for creation of local government areas, every single local government memorandum was tied to the traditional institutions that existed then. Every single local government was using the history of their traditional councils, their traditional leadership, to claim a right over land that is now clamoring to be a local government under their jurisdiction. Therefore, it is an irony that in the course of emplacing an administrative structure to administer these areas that have been created because of the history of the traditional institution, the institution is excluded effectively in the governance of that entity. It's an irony. So you are leaving a large portion of the opportunity of human capital to help the management of that council. So it is high time for us to know that if we find a way to properly bring in the traditional institutions to the formal administrative setup of the local government councils of the country, you would have been reintroducing core values of the nation, of every nook and cranny of this country into relevance. And it's a spiritual thing. People feel their allegiance to their communities through the leadership of the traditions, of the traditional institutions. So it is another part, and apart from the financial autonomy, we must find a way to create functional roles for the traditional institution. Because in my 3 years in local government chairman, it's a daily affair. Every morning the traditional rulers is woken up with problems. They don't even come to me. It is from him that he brings such issues back to the council, because they recognize him as the head and the person who knows the solution of the place that the problem may be coming from. You don't have the history. So we are living outside our history. And once you live your history, man, you are going to live in somebody else's history, and you'll be floating in the air. That's what we're doing. We cannot deny the role that the traditional institutions can play and has been playing and continues to play. Even the government today, at the federal level, when they have a problem, who they come to the villa? It's the traditional rulers. If the governors have problems today in their states, the first people that face the fire is the traditional rulers. So also the local government. The local government chairmen run away from their local government headquarters. The traditional rulers live there. When there are crises, there are communal crises, the traditional ruler doesn't leave his domain. But the local government chairmen run away.
That's a solid point you've raised, honestly, because even in my own area, my council chairman doesn't live within my area in Lagos. So now you are spot on, because the traditional rulers, they don't leave their domain. They stay there, and people know how to, meet with these people. But these, okay, now that takes us to a whole lot of conversation. But quickly, let me start taking messages, because a lot of messages here for you, and people are excited that you're here, someone who's been there. And this is coming from Olusegun Roberts. First, he says he's thanking Governor Sanwo-Olu for putting out good structure for peaceful elections in Lagos State. For the first time, he says no news of killings and ballot boxes being snatched. Now, quickly, we'll come back to all of that. Is it the place of governors to set up, talking about council election, is it, how do they say it? Is the state resident electoral commission setting up this, and how, I say you're laughing, and how it always works. If it's party A that is at the center in that state, almost everyone in that local government wins the election for that party, to the extent that even a very popular candidate can't even get 3 or 4 votes. Now, quickly here, he says, I should ask you quickly, your guest his take or thoughts on restructuring or regional government, especially with our diversity, considering that the Western world that we copy easily understand this need and achieve it in their climb without any issues. I'll let you take that quickly. His name is Olusegun Roberts from Ikorodu.
Well, number one, let me quickly find faults in his commending the governor for creating a peaceful atmosphere for local government elections that are taking place. The question you should ask is, how many people came out for the election? Were people enthusiastic about the election? This is an election that people should express themselves freely. Even the peaceful atmosphere is like, you are going to a place that there's nobody willing to come on, because the results are already determined. All elections, that was why I was saying the elections, the amendment to the Constitution should include, no matter how painful it is, that our peculiarity shows that we need to conduct national elections just like it was done in 1999 to local government elections, so that the enthusiasm and participation will be wholesome in the context that it deserves to be. Because the peaceful atmosphere in Lagos, because it is already written, it's also going to be written in Nasarawa State, in every state in this country, that the elections that are conducted by a PDP state, everybody that will be winning that day will be a PDP councillor and chairman. And so also the APC will do in Lagos today, it has done in Lagos so far, and Ogun State, and wherever it's taking place. That's not the spirit. I want us to appreciate the fact that you as a governor today, you will not be a governor in maximum of 8 years in this country, and you'll be suffering the lot. My very senior brother, colleague, former governor of Kaduna State, I even asked him, we were on a program together, Your Excellency, today you wanted to run for Senate in Zaria constituency, and the incumbent governor messed you up because you were one of the most stable persons that brought Kaduna to a stability level of infrastructure development. You did McAfee, he did so well, but he was choked out of election because of an incumbent governor taking charge of local government system that he emplaced by a fiat. So the idea today of commending a governor, for me, it's like it's not worth it. For people, enthusiasm of people has gone down to so low. Even the former governors, Litinibo didn't vote, and Bode didn't vote. They didn't vote because there was nothing for them to go and vote according to them. But leadership has failed. Secondly, the idea of regionalism, that's not the solution to the problem. The problem is, where is governance most important? People are clamoring for upper level opportunity to vent their ambition to be reckoned with in public affairs, leaving the needs of the people as a functional responsibility of the elite. The most important aspect of development today should be how to emplace a properly functioning local government system independent of a state governor. And if there is any tier of government today that is supposed to be phased out gradually, it's the state. Because they have constituted a greater block. They don't allow the federal government to function, they don't allow the lower government to function. And then at the state government, they have not developed the country in 23 years. There is no state that has not received the money to turn around Nigeria to a thing of envy across the world. But show me one state that has judiciously demonstrated that it is better performing than a local government council would have done. None. They've all been caught up with huge sums of money in their funds, in their private accounts, and no development anywhere. No state government has come out clear in this country to be said to have lived above board, except for a few cases of peculiar areas here and there. But even then, where is it? So there is no question of why a governor today should be looking for regionalism. Where are you taking the regions to again? Where are you taking it back to the same situation we find? I have never seen as a problem. I have seen that regionalism is federalism in disguise. Federalism for me is not about states, it's about local government councils to be independent enough for people to be independent enough to take their decisions to the extent that they can develop better than the next local government area.
Well, I think someone seemed to also be on the same page with you. Ade Boyega is saying, what's the essence of having local government that isn't independent? State governors, according to Adeleke, that are holding the local government to ransom are, biting more than they can chew. And this is purely injustice to the people at the grassroots. The independence of local government is very paramount. And the Independent National Electoral Commission should be the sole body to organize local government election, not the state governors, making them have a way of shortchanging and rigging local government election. I think he's on the same page with you because you just said to us that it is best for us to have the same electoral body, the same electoral process, so that the excitement, the objective, of the election from the grassroots, from the top to down, is not lost. I'm hoping that another issue that we really have to talk about here is that the candidates. I don't know how they emerged, in your time as chairman in Nasarawa, but I remember then when I had the same Fuad Oki here on the show. He said, well, sometimes politicians make the process so difficult and clumsy. They sit somewhere and they handpick people and say, oh, this man is a loyal guy. This boy has been out of job, but he has been working for the party, let us just put him there. So ultimately what that means sometimes is not the electorate, it's not the constituents, not the people in the locality who ultimately will choose a leader and also elect that leader. I don't know if that also resonates with you.
Well, it has been everywhere, all over the world. There are different atmospheres that encourage one form or the other of candidates emerging. But the party guidelines, whichever party today, usually sets up processes and rules and regulations for the emergence of candidates for elections across the world and includes Nigeria. But in practice, like in any setting, to be fair to all of us, there's nothing wrong with consensus. There's nothing wrong with truly identifying somebody who they believe can run an election or better for the people. But as it is today, it's a very sorry state that you don't even need to look for it. Just be a lucky, just be a loyal person, just be like I am in the group, and that's all you need. Because 90% of the candidates that will emerge, even within the ruling party, are going to be those who the leadership believe are loyal to them, will do what exactly they want. Even within the same party, within the same ruling party. And that's what brings discontent. Even today, Nasarawa State is also preparing for her own primaries. Within the ruling party, the discontent level is so high because everyone knows that once you are a candidate, you're automatic councillor and you're automatic chairman. And so the game is so hard, but you also know that it's the person that is favored by the commissioner and the members of the House of Assembly, the House of Rep, the governor and the commissioners that will emerge as candidates. Very few times will you have opportunity for proper primaries to be conducted. Even when the primaries are conducted, it is those in leadership that will determine how the primaries are going to be conducted. So it is a very sad aspect of the characteristics that is really now becoming like a tradition of our electoral process, and it's not going to help the situation. I didn't set out to look for local government election in 1999. Those aspirants couldn't resolve among themselves. But curiously, they agreed that if I was invited to come in and stand for election, and I agreed, they will step down. And that's what happened in my case. So like this one, it was a wishful thing, and everybody willingly did. And every member of those people who had aspired to run for governorship, for primaries, for local government chairmanship with me, were all involved in the governance for the 3 years I was there. So there is room for consensus. There is room for people to willingly bring somebody else if they believe in its capacity. But as it is now, it is what the leadership wants. It's what the governor wants. It's what the commissioner wants. It's what the members of the elite want. And it's going to be, you will have a council that people don't even have to write. You have a council that people don't even know how to wear their dress, so that they don't even, to the extent that you wonder whether he's a councillor or a chairman. He wouldn't even, he's not going there for any reason. He's going there to get salary, to build a house, marry, and buy a car.
Allow me. Yeah, it was just recently someone, an HR expert said to me, look, you see, some of these people who are looking for a job, the first point for you to know if they are serious looking for the job is to tell them, send me an application or send me your CV. And 9 out of 10, for those people who are not serious, they can't. They go like, Elijah, you know, I already sent the CV to you. Can you just forward? Because he said, even if you had it before, still tell the person to send. So it is that interest that you get, because if the person is so laid back, and it is the same laid back attitude that he or she will also exhibit when he or she gets there. It's the same thing you've just highlighted concerning people who are not really, you know, showing that they're enthusiastic about coming into grassroots governance, which is very, very important, because we have always thought, I'm happy you're saying this, and for those listening to you will also understand where I'm headed. Well, you know, sometimes people think that those at the grassroots should be people who are of low educational qualification. I don't know if you met people who think that way too.
Well, the assumption is predicated on the fact that the governors have made the local government system to be non-functional. If there is anywhere you need the most competent, developed, passion-driven people to carry out people's affairs for the purposes of bringing wealth and development, the local government system is about. That is what the 1976 reform was all about. The 1976 reform was all about encouraging people who have retired, acquired enough knowledge, have reached the age of maturity, and don't have the passion for worldly things to come back home and conduct the affairs of their people as if it were originally being done by the traditional people. That was the essence of the 1976, and that's why they encourage all sorts of paraphernalia around them, so that when you are a former PAMSEC, a former minister, your former governor, you can still be a local government official. It was not meant for, it was not supposed to be a dumping ground. It was supposed to be a platform for service delivery, to ensure that people have hope that services will be delivered. It is supposed to be a platform for good governance, so that people know that people will be governing them with values that will encourage their growth, for proper financial management, for infrastructural development, for fighting corruption. It was not a platform for, you know, wayward lifestyle and sewing new dresses and getting married. No, it was a platform for tracking development on daily basis.
Let me bring in. I just realized I haven't actually taken some of questions. I'm so engrossed, so excited listening to you, and people are also excited listening to you. And I'll take this one. This one here says, kudos to your guest for hitting the nail on the head. What he mentioned about involving traditional institutions in the local government affairs was what went through my mind this morning. The governors are too powerful, but some Nigerians are blinded by their hatred for the man at the center. To imagine that a body like our God that stood up to Obasanjo was killed by Governors Forum is unthinkable. And this is coming from Afiz Ojoalakbe. Let me take more so that we can cover a lot. That's the commendation, and also adding his voice. I want you to also comment on that. And this one here from Esa says that no state will allow INEC to conduct elections for the councils because they believe the ruling party at the center will influence the result. The only issue is to have an independent electoral institution with all its autonomy. And one more here, quickly, This is from Abu Otene. Abu says the local government as a tier of government must be encouraged as it is the closest to the grassroots. Unfortunately, politicians in our space today have bastardized and rendered it totally useless. You would be shocked to know that politicians who started out as local government chairmen are complicit in rendering the local government powerless when they rise to become governors. If the problem is the law, then we must make the required adjustments to make the local government beneficial to the people. So, over to you.
Well, we formed Algon. Well, among the 8 local government chairmen, or first 13 local government that formed Algon were the principals. We ran it. And I want to commend Obasanjo and Atiku because we sat with them in the course of forming Algon from the point of view of relevance of delivery of services to the grassroots. So, and they ran with us, we worked with us successfully for 3 years. It didn't affect their roles as president and vice president. The governors in our state, most of the governors in the state, we never interfered with their activities. We encouraged structured approach to development as Algon. We stopped frivolous seminars as Algon. Because today, if you go to the local government system, it is daily seminar outside the domain of the local government system, all just to wither away the money for development. So Algon came in a structured manner to bring sanity to activities across the country, like very, very stable countries. These things is a check on even ourselves as local government chairmen then. So I hope that sooner than later, the governors and the electorate will know that local government system is the level at which we must all fight for its turnaround. And this strategy must be adopted. This governor, this presidency has the opportunity to emplace a strategy for the turnaround of the local government system. It can use NOA to propagate and mobilize people to force members of the Houses of Assembly to endorse the complete amendment of the Constitution to give autonomy, financial autonomy, and include the roles for the traditional ruler in the constitution of this country. This is our business. It's not about some elitist people who will leave office whether they like it or not in 8 years. If I'm a governor today, and if I wish I was a governor, the rule that my state house assembly would have passed to give autonomy to local government would shock this country, and it would be a pace-setting profile for other governors to see whether they will not put that kind of laws in their state, because it is even an opportunity for states to truly take away development to the grassroots. Absolutely. Make room for population that would have made sure a local government official that does not do his work will be sacked by his people. It's not the other way around. And so,
you know what I'm thinking now? If you look at education, health, security, general infrastructure, and even now that we're fighting COVID, the primary health care. Once upon a time, especially education, some of those in authorities, or even like yourself, today, they all went to schools in their locality. And these schools were fantastic schools. And I'll say this because I recall I had uncles and aunties who would come, on holiday from the village. And they were the ones taking us through, our lessons, our lectures. And they spoke good English. They did arithmetic and mathematics pretty well. And a lot of them all went out to become greater people, even outside Nigeria. But they schooled in the village, within the local government. But today, even the schools in the cities can't function well, let alone those in the community. So it goes to say, to show what you're highlighting, that we must go back to fixing all of this. Let me bring in quickly this one so that you can tie to what I just raised. Afiz is also saying, Afiz sent in another message here. He says, the insecurities Nigeria is facing at the moment could have easily been dealt with if we had effective local government administration.
And that is why during our time, security was one of the major things we confronted. If you notice, one of the major thrusts of our achievement may be that frightened the governors. Let me use that word because some of them eventually made mention of that. Was that we bought Algon jeeps for DPOs to tackle security problems in our local government. We didn't buy Prado jeeps for ourselves. We had a program to institutionalize DPO's office and integrate it to the local government system, so that everything that you are doing is anchored properly. Everybody knows what everybody is doing. And one of the failures always was the DPOs never had functional vehicles to move around, to go to places where there are problems. And we bought that for them to make sure that they are comfortable in their job and that they have the urge to do that in a manner that fits the office. And so I don't know how else we're going to move this country forward if we do not really revert back to where it's supposed to be, honestly speaking.
You know, I'm hoping that conversations like this will help us, because now at the end of the day, even though in between them, you know, you've been in between questions, in between, you know, conversations that both of us will be having, you've been dropping some solutions. But now, as we coast home, you know, we have about 8 more minutes to spend here. What's the solution, please?
Number one, my idea about providing solution to the Nigerian problem is that there should be a national consensus that Nigerian democracy must be branded based on our history, our tradition, our core values. And the Nigerian values, core values and traditions are peculiar to Nigeria. Our democracy must evolve through what we already are used to and value as important to our life and how we live. So the peculiarity that will structure our democracy must not be copied from the definition in quote of true federalism from America, true federalism from India, or wherever else. And these solutions can be homegrown and they are available for us to explore. 2, there is absolute need now to stop discussing the lacuna in the Constitution and let the federal government carry.
Hello? Oh, looks like
we are back.
Okay,
right?
you're back.
Yeah, that's right. Let the federal government, the APC government today has a majority everywhere. If they want a long-lasting legacy, they should put the local government turnaround strategy. Let them sacrifice and ensure the amendment of this constitution so that we can have proper service delivery at the local government system, so that we can have good governance at the local government system, so that we can have good financial management at the local government system, infrastructure development at the local government system, and fight corruption at its root. And the solution rests with the spirit which General Buhari has today. He has some passion that has been expressed in the various rules and regulations and guidelines he has dished out to ensure that the local government system is stable. He should transform that energy to a formal amendment of the Constitution. Anything short of this will just be rhetorical and it will not help. It's our responsibility as stakeholders to know that there is death in everything we are doing. And the only thing that we can leave behind is a good name. And the essence of playing to the government or being a chairman today or being a commissioner minister today fades away with time. And so we must live in the spirit of generating images that will leave behind a spirit of give and take that will make this country go forward. It is not about restructuring, it's not about regionalism. These are facades that do not look like us. They're only going to blind us from our realities, you know. And so we have the option to rediscover ourselves through our institution and our history and our tradition.
You know, quickly on the aspect of, you know, okay, let me see. We still have time to take some of those questions. And this one here says, well, good day. Restructuring is nastier to Nigerian problems, not autonomous, not autonomous government. Well, he didn't put a name on that. I don't know if you understand what he's trying to say. He's still about restructuring, because restructuring, regionalism, these are some of the words, you know, Nigerians have always used, to the extent that even, you know, students of politics are a little bit confused and asking questions if they're not the same or what's the difference. Let me push this to you.
It's a facade from reality, you know, because regionalism, does it equate to development and delivery of services to our people. The funds, let me be maybe frontal about this, would have that today has enveloped South Nigeria vis-a-vis the volume of funds that have been pumped into that place to save our people from the environmental degradation and the poverty that stacks people on the face. Would have regionalism solved the problem of the middle belt, where so-called middle belt, which is not central zone now, where people are impoverished. Would have regionalism solved the problem of northwestern Nigeria, where Almajiri people have refused to accept that Almajiri can be reformed in a manner that people can be properly in school. Is that where regionalism was solved, or people becoming more spiritual, more functional, more positive in contributing to human race development by doing what is right? It is the fear of doing what is right that for me encouraged people to start bringing issues of federalism and restructuring. I remember in a discussion I said, if we are truly so religious, will we accept to implement full Sharia law for Muslims and Roman Catholic laws for all Christians? Because if that is the fear that we have continued to run away from, we're people that have refused to face realities in the course of the responsibility that is upon us for our people, and that regionalism is not a solution.
And before we start getting all of these things working, politicians listening to us now, some of them will be asking, how can we, reach our people? How can we better reach our people, pending when some of these things will be rejigged and retreat? So for now, if I'm a politician and I want to reach out as a grassroots politician, someone who is going to be interested in grassroots politics, coming in to change the course and ensure that some of the things you've highlighted are done, how can they make an incursion? I've launched
a platform called Federalism and Local Government System on the Facebook page, and we are starting series of inviting powerful personalities to come and discuss on the page, and hopefully that we should be able in the nearest future generate, even if it's one person in the local government, to be part of the forum, and hopefully before this tenure runs out, we would have generated enough awareness among us that we should stand up to ensure that these amendments are done. Because we cannot continue to speak or say, I'm not in government, it's a business. No, it's your business, because your system is collapsing, your environment is collapsing, armed robbers are in your place, bandits are in your place, headsmen are in your place, and murderers and hire killers are killing people by the day. It is only when we have a functional local government system that our security will be guaranteed, our local economy will be guaranteed, our service delivery will be guaranteed, our financial management will be guaranteed, our fighting corruption will be guaranteed, because the local government system is the least corrupt place in the federation today. The villages are the least corrupt entities in this country today. The most corrupt establishments are cities, federal government establishments, state establishments. Because if the total amount of money that goes to the local government system today, in whichever form, is less than 10%, because even the funds, the 25% that's located in the local government system, 13% out of that is the one that is used for paying for primary education across the country. It's the local government fund that is used in paying all the primary school teachers and activities in this country. I want people to know that. It's not the state government that is paying salaries for teachers. It is not the state government that is maintaining schools. It is the money that is allocated to the local government system. And if these systems were fully entrenched in the rules and in the establishment of the local government system, people would have had opportunity to participate effectively in making sure that the primary schools are run properly, and they're supervised properly, and all areas of health delivery and economy is secured for their people.
And thank you, Mr. Fan, please. But again, check it one more time. What's that on Facebook? You said something about local government, enlightenment for local government administrators or people who are interested.
Yeah, and like I said, set up a platform called Federalism and Local Government.
Okay, I think our listeners will look you out, and I'll also look you up. Thank you very much for your time, Jibril Sabo Kiana, Wakilin Kiana of Nasarawa State. Thank you very much for your time. Once we get to a point, we'll have another, episode of this same, grassroots democracy, and we'll reach out to you. Thank you for your time again.
My pleasure, honestly. I appreciate it.
Well, that's all today on The Discourse on Classic FM. I'm Sulaiman. See you again next week.